Welcome to A View to a Grill. I'm Johnny. Today we're going to be double smoking a Smithfield ham. We're also going to be making some scalloped potatoes and some delicious asparagus, all on the Z-Grill's multitasker. Since the ham is going to take the longest, we're going to start with that. The first thing we're going to want to do is preheat our Z-Grill's multitasker to 325 degrees. Just so you can see what we're working with, we have a 3.5 pound Smithfield honey glazed ham. Now it is my personal opinion that you do not have to apply any rub to your store-bought spiral cut ham. It already comes seasoned and, well, it's already cooked as well. All the extra flavor that we're going to add will come from the smoke from the pellet grill, the honey glaze that we're going to apply, and the caramelization that comes from the honey glaze. We have removed our ham from the package, placed it on a rack, and now we're just going to get it onto the pellet grill. I'm also going to add some water to the pan just for added moisture in the cooking chamber. Just for a little time reference, it is 2:20 in the afternoon. I'm going to start off with some honey from a local bee farm. 1 stick of butter, half a teaspoon of pepper flakes, a 1/4 cup of lemon juice, and a pinch of salt. Now we'll get all of those ingredients into our cast iron pan, which we're going to use to melt the butter and get all of these ingredients together. If you have the opportunity to get some local honey just flat out beats store-bought honey any day. Now I'll just get the lid on and just let that hang out until it's time to get it onto the pellet grill. It is now 3:30, about an hour later. I'm going to go ahead and open up the pellet grill, give the ham a 180 degree turn, and I'm also going to place that cast iron of glaze onto the pellet grill so the butter can start melting and all those ingredients can start coming together. Get started on the scalloped potatoes. For the scalloped potatoes, we're going to need some Yukon Gold potatoes, cream cheese and Monterey cheese, salt, pepper, a half stick of melted butter, 8 ounces of Mexican crema, and a cup of half and half. We'll also need some green onions and about a teaspoon of onion powder and garlic powder. First, we'll get that Mexican crema into a large mixing bowl. Then I kind of like to get all of it out of there, so I'll pour the half and half into the bottle of Mexican crema, shake it up real good, and then pour that into the large mixing bowl as well. Then I'll start pinching in that room temperature cream cheese right into the mixture. Next, I'll add the butter, then the pepper, a couple of pinches of salt, onion powder, and garlic powder. And then we'll just mix that around until we come up with this consistency. A few lumps are just fine. I will go ahead and peel my potatoes. Now you don't need to because the potato skin on a Yukon Gold is actually pretty thin. So if you don't mind your potatoes to have skin on them, then just leave them there. It's a personal preference for me. That's why I peel my potatoes. Once I have them peeled, we'll just get those potatoes thinly sliced. And when I say thinly sliced, I mean about this thick. Now as I'm slicing these, I'm just putting them straight into that mixture that we made earlier. I'm going to do this in 2 batches. Once I have about half of those potatoes sliced up and in the bowl, I'm just going to give them a good mix in that mixture that we made earlier, making sure that all of the potatoes are coated. And now I'll go ahead and get my green onions and slice the greens very thinly. I'll then get my cast iron, and I like to spray the inside of the cast iron. I just feel like this helps prevent sticking. Once I have the inside of the cast iron sprayed, I'll then get the potatoes out of the mixture and into the cast iron skillet. Now you don't have to make beautiful spirals out of this or anything like that. Just get them in and try to get them as level from one end of the cast iron to the other. Now it's time for me to go ahead, grab a handful of those chopped onions and just sprinkle them over these potatoes. Once I have that first layer done, I did it all over again, and I finished them off with another sprinkling of green onions and just a light coating of that Monterey cheese. Now that we have all of that done, it's time to get the potatoes in with the ham. It is now 3:40, and the butter that we put in our glaze should be melted now. Then I'll just slide the ham over to make room for our scalloped potatoes. Now we'll get the scalloped potatoes in and the lid closed. Now we'll take a look at the glaze, and the butter has mostly melted. We'll just give that a stir to incorporate all the ingredients, put the lid back on to keep it warm. I'll also go back to the Z grills and raise the temperature up from 325 to 350 degrees. While the potatoes and ham are cooking, it's time to get the Parmesan and bacon asparagus together. This is a real simple recipe. We're just going to need some salt, lemon juice, garlic, shallots, Parmesan cheese, and some bacon that I rendered earlier. You can definitely cook the entire asparagus, but what I like to do is cook the asparagus tips. I'll take one and grab both ends and just snap it in half. Then I'll just get the rest of my asparagus, kind of use that first one to measure up the others, and then use my knife to cut right through the entire bunch. And I'll do that for both of these bunches of asparagus. All we have to do now is get the asparagus onto a baking tray. Next, I'll just sprinkle on that bacon that I rendered earlier. Then I'll get half of that lemon and just kind of squeeze and shake my hand at the same time to get that juice on all of the asparagus. I'll then get those shallots and slice them into thin slices. Next, I'll sprinkle the shallots all over the top of the asparagus and bacon. And then I'll cut these garlic cloves in half and just kind of sprinkle them on top. Next, I'll spray it with a little bit of olive oil. Then I'll take the Parmesan cheese and just grate some right over the top. And last, I'll season it with some fresh cracked pepper. And when I was done, I had a sheet of asparagus that looked like this. And now we'll get back to the ham and the potatoes. It is now 4 o'clock and we're getting close to wrapping all of this up. We'll get the Z grills open, and now we're just going to do a quick temperature check. The internal temperature is reading about 114 degrees. I know that that is close enough to the final temperature between 145 and 165 that we want. So I'm going to give this another 15 minutes before I start glazing the ham. It is now 4:15 and we're going to start glazing this ham. We're going to do it 3 times. 4:15, 4:30, 4:45, and then that last 15 minutes from 4:45 to 5 o'clock is when we're going to see the most caramelization. We're going to let this ham go for its final 15 minutes, and check out these potatoes. They're looking pretty good. 15 minutes later, it is 5 o'clock and the ham is done. Now let's go ahead, grab the ham off the Z grills and get it onto our board. Look at this ham. That thing is beautiful. Look at the caramelization. That is not burnt, that is caramelized. Now let's go back to the pellet grill and check on the potatoes. And I'm not checking for a temperature. I'm just using the probe to see if all of the potatoes are nice and soft. And by my judgment, the potatoes are nice and soft. They're done as well. Let's go ahead, grab the potatoes, take them off, get them onto our board, and wow, take a look at these potatoes. Man, those things just scream deliciousness. Now let's get our asparagus and get that on the pellet grill. While the asparagus are cooking, let's go ahead and try the ham and potatoes and check out the results of our hard work. I just pulled off a little piece of ham and look at that. It's glistening in the light. The glaze got in between each one of those layers, and man, that is a delicious ham. Taking a look at the potatoes, they look totally delicious. I'll just get in there with a fork and try to get a little piece out, and check out these potatoes. Creamy deliciousness right there. And yeah, they were hot too. A little bit fell in my hand and I had to get that out of there, but the taste was delicious. And then at 5:20, the asparagus is done. Let's get back to the Z grills. We'll just pull those off. Now I had an idea that the garlic would have enough time to roast, but it didn't, and it's still hard. So we're just going to discard that. That little experiment was a fail. And now we'll give our asparagus a taste, and I've made this many times. The asparagus is delicious. This is my favorite recipe for asparagus. Now, if you haven't already subscribed to my channel, go ahead, take a minute, subscribe to the channel. Thank you for watching A View to a Grill. I'll see you guys next time. Take care, y'all.